that's what it reminded of. But it was just that claw in the arm, and they said they used it either for digging up ants or for killing other animals. I mean, you couldn't have a bigger span of use.
And where was this discovered?
That I don't remember in the details that was there, but it's always impressive to my audience to see the claw, you know, and they're really impressed by that.
And you've examined various dinosaur bones at a major museum in Mexico and other locations. John, tell us about this plesiosaur. You have some exciting information.
Well, the plesiosaur is really an exciting animal, too, because Noah only took on the ark air-breathing land animals.
Land-based.
Right.
Terrestrial.
Okay. Right. And so the thing is, he didn't take any whales, he didn't take any sharks, he didn't take any fish, even though we have fossils of all of these, because some of them got buried in mud. But the thing is, you only needed 2 of them just to continue to reproduce. So there's no point in having them on the ark. But the plesiosaurs, or Alamosaurus, is a type of dinosaur living in the waters. And we think it's very much like the famous Loch Ness monster.
Yes.
Has been cited over 11,000 registered sightings in 100 years. The park guard, Alexander Campbell, has seen it 18 times in 47 years working there. A young man, Arthur Grant, a university veterinary student, in 1934 almost crashed into the monster at night while he was on his motorcycle. Arthur Grant was on the motorcycle, not the monster.
Oh, yes,
okay.
yes.
And
keeping the audience awake.
Right, okay. Anyway, he got off his motorcycle, watched the animal go down and into the waters of the lake. Now, he's a veterinary student. He studies animals. He drew a creature about on the order of 14 to 18 feet long, okay? Something of this nature, because he had the flippers and
where
things.
was that sighted?
That was in the Loch Ness,
which is in
Scotland. Now, the thing is people don't realize that there are some 50 lakes in the world today where there are sightings of large, unknown sea creatures. Lake Champlain between New York and Vermont, there's Champ. We have a photograph of the hump, the neck, and the head of Champ. Lake Erie, Lake Michigan by Chicago and Milwaukee, there have been sightings. Lake Superior between upper Michigan and Canada. Way west, we have Lake Okanagan in Canada by Vancouver and Seattle. Since the time of the Canadian Indians, we've seen Ogopogo.
Yes.
And then, of course, other countries, without even talking about the oceans. In 1925, the head, large head, and about 20 feet of neck of a plesiosaur washed up on the beach of Monterey, California, by San Francisco. And the interesting comment is that no other explanation has been given other than that plesiosaurs are still living in the Pacific Ocean.
Well, and we're surrounded by dinosaurs.
There's just a number of them all over
Now,
the place.
with time marching, when you're having fun, it marches fast. Let's get some verification of what we're talking about. You talked about a bus driver, and briefly tell us about these sightings, and then let's go to Mokali and Bimbi and some of the other sightings.
Well, my first really contact, this is my friend, and he's a Christian brother, Adolfo Chino. He's a native Mexican from the Huichol nation, and he's known the Lord for 18 years, and he's showing me here in my book of pterosaurs, that's flying dinosaurs, of what he saw up in the mountains. This man's a bus driver, and what he saw at 2 in the afternoon in 2002 coming down from the mountains there in central Mexico.
And a rempharinchid type creature with a long tail. And how large was this creature?
It was about 17 to 20 foot wingspan.
Incredible.
Just 60 feet from the bus. 2 o'clock in the afternoon, plenty of sunlight. He, his son, and 12 passengers saw it.
And they all verify that.
Right.
Incredible. Now you talked about this creature, 1983.
Okay, this is Marceline Agnaga, what he saw in the swamps of his country there in the Congo, and he drew that here on the blackboard of what he had seen.
But the Bible anticipated all of this. Tell us about Job 40:15.
Okay, now Job lived after the flood, before Moses and Abraham. And in Job 40, God is talking to Job, and he says, "Behold now Behemoth, which I made with you. He eats grass as an ox."
Made with you.
Right. In other words, they're living together.
Yes.
Okay. And he says, "Lo, now his strength is in his loins, and his force in the navel of his belly." He was very fat. He was big.
Very fat,
okay.
and a low
stomach.
profile, a low center of gravity.
Right. He says, skipping down, he says, his bones are as strong pieces of brass. His bones are like bars of iron. And so the thing is, he was very big, very strong, very heavy, big stomach, ate grass. What animal could it be? Well, there's some that suggest that maybe it was an elephant. Others suggest that maybe it was a hippopotamus. In fact, I saw a Bible that has hippopotamus in the text in place of behemoth. But you know, he skipped one detail. It says here in verse 17, it says, he moves his tail like a cedar.
Yes.
He moves his tail like a tree. Okay,
like
so
a tree.
What animal is there? Look at the tail here in this elephant.
No.
There's nothing like a tree.
Impossible.
You know? What animal could it be that ate grass, had a big stomach, was very big, very strong, very heavy, had a tail the size of the trunk of a tree?
And shaped like a cedar tree, large and tapering.
Exactly.
And the only answer, of course,
Is a dinosaur.
is a dinosaur.
But not any dinosaur. Preferably a brachiosaurus. And by the way, if you can see this here, these are adult hippopotamus and elephant.
In size reference.
Exactly. The brachiosaurus was one of the, if not the largest dinosaur that there was. And in verse 19 it says that he that made him can bring his sword unto him. In other words, as God made the brachiosaurus, he's the only one who's going to be able to take him on.
That is right. And that brings us to Mokele Mbembe. Tell us all about this creature in the Congo.
Okay, well, the Congo has the largest swamp in the whole world. It's probably 7.5 million acres. It's just huge. It would cover a number of states in the United States. And since 1910, newspaper reports have talked about dinosaurs in Africa. And here's an actual footprint of Mokele Mbembe, which, by the way, means he that blocks the river. And this is an actual footprint of the creature. The reports are that the pygmies captured and killed one. On eating its flesh, they didn't like the taste of it. They left the carcass there. People want to get into that country to study that carcass. Also, we have in Tanzania, which is a neighboring country to the Congo, an actual postage stamp made by the government of an Edmontosaurus, which is a type of dinosaur that natives have reported seeing in their swamp areas of their country.
That is more than interesting, which brings me to the following. John, some time ago, you and I were in Peru at the same time.
Right.
The title of this program is that we're surrounded by dinosaurs. By evolutionary theory, which you and I have both studied and have been propagandized with. These dinosaurs, this one died out about 140 million years ago, according to evolutionary theory. The last dinosaur with T-Rex and the pterodactyls, Allosaurus, etc., died out some 64 million years ago. But according to the biblical record in Job chapter 40, we should be surrounded by dinosaurs. That is, there should be viable records of individuals within our culture and our generations having seen living dinosaurs within the last few thousand years. Well, we have Mokele Mbembe, as you've already indicated. We have the pterosaurs, as indicated by eyewitness accounts of your friends and eyewitness accounts of my friends in Papua New Guinea. But now, back to Peru. After we left the Amazon jungles lecturing together, flew back to Lima, you went to a speaking appointment. I was joined by Dr. Dennis Swift, who's been on this program a number of times. I joined his group at that point because they had medical supplies for the refugees from the earthquake, the victims from the earthquake, medical supplies and toys. Once those were delivered, then we flew the Nazca lines.
Wow. Exciting.
You remember, or do you remember, Eric von Daniken's publication of Chariot of the Gods?
Right.
And of course, his entire thesis was, those Nazca lines, which number hundreds, you have seen them at least in profile. I don't think you've flown over them.
I flew over them, but we weren't able to see them.
Yeah, all right.
Because there was too much cloud cover at the time.
Okay. There are hundreds of them in all directions. They relate to the sky god of the people of Nazca, and that civilization died out about 500 AD. There are huge iconoglyphs. Now that technical name is probably not familiar to this audience except for a few, but those are icons that were revered, drawings of the icons, the revered creatures. They have a huge condor etched among these lines, and the lines are really simply depressions from a few inches to a couple of meters.